Hello everyone and welcome to a brand new video where we will be breaking down the fight between Jairzinho, Rozenstruik and Andrei Arlovski, which takes place this weekend at UFC 244. In this video we will be taking a very deep dive into this fight to find out what are the strengths and the weaknesses of both fighters. Now, like in yesterday's video where we took a look at the fight between Corey Anderson and Johnny Walker, at the moment, just like Johnny Walker, Jairzinho Rozenstruik is a bit of an unknown. He's a bit mysterious because he's obviously come into the UFC and absolutely blown both of his opponents out of the water. If we take a look at Rozenstruik's record here, we can see that his two fights in the UFC have ended very quickly. He's run through Albanian Crowder, just like Johnny Walker has run through the opponents that he has faced so far. So in this video, we're going to be taking a deep dive into some of Rozenstruik's past fights to see exactly what skills he brings to the table, because as we know, flash KOs can sometimes mask giant weaknesses that future opponents can exploit, and if future opponents can exploit them and we can bet on that, well, we can make some money. So it's a win-win for everybody. So with that being said, guys, I know you are all itching for the breakdowns for the big fights coming up this weekend, so I want to do another business deal with you guys. If this video receives 300 likes within 12 hours of the video receiving 300 likes, I will put out a breakdown for the co-main event fight this weekend between Kelvin Gastelum and Darren Till. So hit that like button right now if you're watching this video on YouTube, boys, and subscribe if you haven't already. And like I say, as soon as this video hits 300 likes, we will get it popping. We'll get that Darren Till and Kelvin Gastelum breakdown out. And guys, if you check out the last video that I did, it came out less than 24 hours ago. We've already got 481 likes on that video, so shouldn't take us long to get 300 on this one. And remember, when this video between Johnny Walker and Corey Anderson receives 1,000 likes, I will be dropping the breakdown for Jorge Masvidal against Nate Diaz, the big one, the fight that everyone is waiting for. And we will get to that later on in the week once liquidity is built up and once this community of us of bettors are not a big enough number to move the odds, because by Saturday a bunch of liquidity would have built up on the betting odds. Friday, Saturday would be a good time to bring that breakdown video out without swaying the odds too much. So guys, if you're watching this live on Twitch, please drop a comment in the live chat and we will answer all your questions about this fight as we go. This should be a shorter one than usual because there's not a ton of footage available on Jairzinho Rozenstruik before he came into the UFC. But as ever, what we will start off by doing is taking a look at some of the X factors in this fight. So, if you remember Rozenstruik's UFC debut against Junior Albini, you'll remember that his striking defense isn't very good. Oh, sorry, not his striking defense. Well, to some degree, his striking defense wasn't great in that fight. Albini was able to land some big shots, but his biggest weakness is his takedown defense. So, really from Rozenstruik, when we look at the X factors in this fight, we would want to be assessing how much or what is the likelihood that his takedown defense has improved significantly since we last saw him in February. So if we take a look at his Instagram profile to try and gauge where he's been training, the problem with Rozenstruik is that if you go back over a long period of time and check his Instagram profile out, it does appear like he's a bit of a nomad when it comes to training. Like, he likes to travel around lots of different gyms. So if you scroll down a bit lower, we can see that he has spent some time training with the Black Zillions. Here we can see him, Rashad Evans, Jason Jackson, another picture, but this is of course Robbie Lawler. And why can't I remember this guy's name? He's the wrestler that got done for, did he commit murder or something, or manslaughter? UFC lightweight, but I'm catching dementia, so can't actually remember the dude's name at the moment. Here is Rozenstruik with Vitor Belfort. Here he is with Linton Vassell, who is a Bellator heavyweight these days, used to be a light heavyweight. And I can remember everyone's name apart from this guy. He fought the Russian Khabilov. It's going to do my head in unless I unless I discover his name, because it's completely slipped my mind. It's driving me crazy. Desmond Green, of course. How could I forget? Should have recognised the dreadlocks, because he infamously had to cut those dreadlocks off in a Titan FC fight to make weight. But if we scroll back further through his career, further through his Instagram profile, you can see that he's got lots of pictures with lots of different guys in lots of different gyms. So it's not like he's been training at, Henry Hoof's combat club for a lengthy period of time, is the point that I'm trying to make. If we go back sort of this far, we're not really far into his Instagram profile, and this was around about the time that he was fighting Junior Albini. Here we can see a picture with Luke Rockhold, Tyrone Spong. Actually, we see Michael Johnson in the background there. He looked very good this past weekend before slipping on a banana skin in round 3. So yeah, it looks like Rozenstruik has been moving around, training at lots of different gyms, lots of different camps, but has spent a little bit of time at Henry Hoof Combat Academy. So difficult to measure how much Rozenstruik's takedown defense would have improved since February. Here we take a look at Andrei Arlovski's Instagram profile, and of course there is no question where Arlovski trains. Arlovski trains at the best MMA gym in the world, American Top Team. You can see Mikey Brown with the slippers on the private jet, rocking the ATT sweater with the man Jorge Gamebred Masvidal. That is the main event this evening, the main attraction, the A side, or maybe the B side, depending on which perspective you hold. But here he is in the training picture, again with Mike Brown and Jorge Masvidal. So Arlovski trains at the best gym in the world. So before we get into watching one of Rozenstruik's past fights, from one we're going to watch is against Andrei Kovalev from back at Rising 10 in May 2018, which would be around about 18 months ago. Before we get into watching this fight here, we are just going to basically summarize the research that I've already done. So prior to starting this live stream, I went back and I watched all of these fights, which it took quite a long time, because as you can see, Arlovski's an absolute decision machine. So just these fights, to get through all these, took about 2 hours, maybe a little over 2 hours, because stopping, starting, taking breaks, things like that. So it was a bit of a campaign to watch these past fights, but I wanted to go back through these fights because it's quite clear when you start to research both these guys. So I watched these two fights of Rozenstruik from back in the UFC. It didn't take very long at all. A combined total, both fights lasted less than 7 minutes. So I watched these, and it became quite clear after watching those two fights and assessing what Rozenstruik brings to the table, that the only real way I see Arlovski winning this fight is by getting this fight to the ground. So I had to go back through a good number of fights to see, the likelihood that Arlovski would try and take this fight to the ground, because you'll see in a minute why this fight is pretty damn complicated. I will say that. But basically, what I would say is, at this stage in his career, at 40 years old, Andrei Arlovski has become pretty slow. Doesn't really carry that much power in his hands anymore. As you can see, it's been a long time since he won a fight by knockout. We have to go all the way back to 2015 to see the last time that Andrei Arlovski knocked someone out. Very long time ago now. That's 4 years ago. So very slow. Doesn't really carry knockout power in his hands. And Rozenstruik is an elite kickboxer, very, very high level kickboxer, very technical kickboxing. If the fight stays standing, Arlovski's in big trouble. It doesn't necessarily mean he'll get knocked out, but for sure, very likely to get outpointed, because Rozenstruik has a huge speed, huge technique advantage. But Rozenstruik's takedown defense is absolutely terrible. And I mean, I can't even call it a ground game. It's basically a white belt level ground game. And you'll see a little bit of that when we watch this fight against Kovalev. And it's on full display in this Junior Albini fight. So if you've got a UFC Fight Pass, a great investment. It's only like $10 a month, so I don't even know how much it is. Go check out this fight. If you're interested in betting Arlovski or Rozenstruik this weekend, this is the fight you need to watch, because it goes to show that a strong gust of wind is enough to take Rozenstruik down. His ground game is at a really low level. And the beauty of me doing these live stream research videos with you guys is, like I always say, I don't share my opinions. I am not giving you my opinions on these fights. You know, this is the channel where you don't get opinions, all you get is facts. Because all I am doing is watching footage and relaying to you guys the truth, what actually happened. You know, it's not like I'm making stuff up from hazy memories or creating some perspective out of thin air. These are facts that I'm sharing with you. And, you know, what I've just said about Rozenstruik, you're going to see for yourself in a few moments when we get into this Andrei Kovalev fight. So, the tricky thing about this fight before we go into it, if we look at these odds, so the average odds currently available on Rozenstruik's around about 1.67. So if we take a look at this, you know, decimal odds 1.67 is moneyline odds of -149 for an implied probability of 60%. So in order to bet Rozenstruik here, you've got to give him a 65% or better chance of winning. And if you look at the odds on Arlovski, current average odds of call it around 2.30, which is plus 130 for an implied probability of 43%. You'd be looking at this you'd have to think this is at least a 50-50 fight before, you know, you'd consider betting on Arlovski. And remember what we said in the Johnny Walker video yesterday, every fight starts standing, right? So if you do see huge holes in the footage we watch in this video in, you know, Rozenstruik's skill set, you have to remember, is Rozenstruik going to be able to land a kill shot before Arlovski potentially gets it to the ground? Now, what I can tell you about this fight is that based on past performances, it is unlikely that Arlovski tries to take this fight to the ground, which is the reason why I think it's fair that Rozenstruik's the favourite. You know, over the last few years, Arlovski's fought, you know, a couple of guys that have really bad takedown defense and a really low-level ground game, but he didn't really try and exploit that and get the fight to the ground. You know, historically, Walt Harris has demonstrated questionable takedown defense and an extremely low-level ground game. I mean, who could forget his fight against Fabrizio Verdum, where Verdum literally took him down and submitted him within like 10 seconds or something ridiculous, or it was a minute. Absolutely no takedown defense, no ground game. And of course, you know, we talk about Tai Tuivasa, very, very bad takedown defense, very, very low level ground game. And, you know, people talk about Arlovski as being this striker, but please don't forget, Andrei Arlovski's got a base in combat sambo. He is a strong grappler, he is a strong wrestler. But for whatever reason, over the years, maybe it's ego, maybe it's being stubborn, you know, he's fallen in love with his striking and doesn't go to his grappling often enough. And of course, he lost a decision here to Tuivasa. Had he tried to get this fight to the ground, work his ground game, probably would have had a lot more success. And the irony is, you know, coming into this fight, Arlovski's record's looking super bad. You know, he's lost 3 of his last 5. The irony here is, you know, one of his most recent dominant performances, this fight against Rothwell was pretty close, but one of his most recent dominant performances was against Stefan Struve, where he did actually go to his wrestling for a change. Now, yes, he did look super sloppy, absolutely looked super sloppy, but he went to trip takedowns from the body lock, got into top position on Struve, and grinded out a decision win. Now, the difference between Struve's ground game and Rozenstruik's ground game is light years apart. You know, there were at times where Arlovski was struggling to maintain position over Struve, but he won't have any problem maintaining position and control of Rozenstruik because, like I said, Rozenstruik's white belt level on the ground. So you will see that in this fight that we watch of Rozenstruik here. So just before we get into it, remember, guys, if you're watching on Twitch, twitch.tv/Diary of a Pro Gambler, leave your comments on the Twitch chat and I will answer them in a minute. And I guess for me, based on the 2 fights that I've watched of Rozenstruik, you know, his first 2 fights in the UFC, based on, you know, Arlovski's past fights, this is how I'm seeing this fight at the moment. And there's very little I could see in the Kovalev fight to change my mind, if I'm being real with you. The way I look at it is, fights stay standing, or fights start standing, and Arlovski over the last, you know, 2 years has shown a real reluctance to go for takedowns, which means it's unlikely that he will try to take this fight to the ground. So for those reasons, Rozenstruik deserves to be the favourite. On the flip side, Andrei Arlovski does train at American Top Team, which is one of the best gyms in the world. You know, he's going to have Mike Brown in his corner, who's one of the best minds in MMA at the moment. You know, the ATT coaches will have done their homework on Rozenstruik. They'll know what his strengths are. They'll know what his weaknesses are. This is an easy night's work for Arlovski. If he goes out, grabs a hold of Rozenstruik, which isn't very difficult, by the way, because his footwork is very flat-footed. He's not one of these light-footed kickboxers that's really elusive. Not one of these guys you have to put yourself in a lot of danger to tie up. You know, Albini tied him up very easily multiple times. If Arlovski wants to get a hold of Rozenstruik, go to the body lock and drag him to the ground, it'll be very easy to do that. It'll be an easy night's work. I would even go as far as saying this will be an easy fight for Arlovski if he fights smart. Close the distance, grab a hold of Rozenstruik, body lock takedown, utter domination on the ground. Probably get a submission, beat him up with ground and pound, get a stoppage quite easily. It's not going to be difficult. The problem is, as we know, if fighters always fought in a way that was the optimum game plan they could use to win a fight, we would all be very rich. The sport would become much more predictable. But every weekend we see guys with easy paths to victory, and they just don't take that path. They do something completely different, and they end up losing. And that's kind of how I feel about Arlovski, because there was one fight over the last few years which was an easy stylistic fight for him, and he, for whatever reason, just didn't make an adjustment in that fight, didn't have a game plan. You know, in this fight against Shamil Abdurakhimov, when I researched this fight, it was quite clear that Abdurakhimov had no offensive wrestling at all. He had nothing. But the only way he was ever able to get opponents down was catching kicks and turning them into takedowns. This was something he was very good at. And anyone researching that fight would have been able to pick out that detail, and they would have been able to have told Arlovski, do not throw kicks. You can keep this fight standing and pick this guy apart, because, you know, back then Arlovski was a better striker than Abdurakhimov. But instead, Arlovski repeatedly threw leg kicks. Abdurakhimov caught them, turned them into takedowns, and the takedowns and the top control ended up being the deciding factor in the fight. When he was standing, Arlovski was outstriking Abdurakhimov. And that concerns me, because this fight is a clear example here, and to some degree the Walt Harris fight, and to some degree the Tai Tuivasa fight, where here all you had to do to win, not throw leg kicks. What did he do? Threw leg kicks the whole fight. Here, what did you do? What do you have to do to win? Take Tuivasa down. Use your combat sambo to grind him out. Same thing with Walt Harris, and he didn't. Which makes me doubt that Arlovski's going to come in here and use his wrestling to beat Rozenstruik, but you never know. The one time you bet on him not doing it is the time that he will come out and do it. And that's the danger with betting on Rozenstruik as the favourite here. You are taking a big risk, because you are betting on a guy with gigantic holes in his skill set. And I will show them to you when we watch this fight against Kovalev. But leave those comments in Twitch, guys, and I will answer them now, just before we get into watching this fight. Let's see if we've got any questions on this one. Godzilla Gandhi has said, love your videos, want to join your website, but I think my bankroll is too small for the price. Yeah, man, I mean, definitely, I mean, it's only $20 a month, but if you're betting super small amounts, I could see why it would be, the bankroll would be too small. Penal Erector has said, my favourite bet so far, Wonderboy, Walker by first round KO, and Anderson. Also considering Masvidal and Gastelum, and Makwan is almost worth it at odds of 3.10. Nice one, Dr. Remalaki, saying he loves the research videos. I much prefer these videos as well, boys. They don't take anywhere near as much time planning. I can just sit in front of the computer, hit record, and off we go. It's much easier for me. Did I hint at leaning Masvidal? Do you know the amazing thing about this event? No one knows who I'm leaning towards, because I've bet Diaz. Remember all the abuse I took for betting on man like Nate Diaz this year. Oh, where is it gone? Where is it gone? Oh, here it is. All the abuse that I took for betting on Nate to beat Pettis. So much abuse. So much abuse. But the beauty is, no one knows who I favour, because this year, Jorge Gamebred Masvidal, that's not going to bring anything up. Jorge Gamebred Masvidal God, shows how long the website's been up. 2015, Henderson versus Masvidal. Very long time ago. I bet it goes further back than that as well. Where are we? I don't even know. Oh, this is one of them. When did Masvidal fight? What card was it? Masvidal versus Ben Askren was Jones against Santos. So it would be this one. So the beauty is no one knows which way I lean on this fight because we've bet on Nate Diaz to beat Anthony Pettis and we've bet on Masvidal twice this year. Both times as an underdog against Ben Askren, and we also bet him as an underdog, a big underdog against Darren Till. So Masvidal and Diaz have been an absolute money train for us this year, so no one knows which way I lean, and I will keep it tight-lipped to see how the odds move on this fight. And when liquidity is built up, that's when I will drop the bomb, because I am very, very, very confident I will be betting this fight. I'll be pulling the trigger on someone. Oh, Mastered by Jazz has said maybe Johnny Walker can beat Rozenstruik in a grappling bout. That would be interesting to see. You imagine those two jabronis in a grappling match? Colt45 has said Till has great value. He's going to be a monster in there against Gastelum. But Gastelum hits so freaking hard, and that fight is going to stay standing. Scary for Till. Yes. Many a young fighter has come unstuck against a granite-chinned Mexican with great cardio. Especially a southpaw, especially one as fast and as hits as hard as Gastelum. But remember, boys, if this video gets, how many do we say, 300 likes within 12 hours of the video receiving 300 likes, I will pump out a breakdown for the fight between Till and Gastelum, let you know how I feel about it based on my footage, or based on the footage, not my footage. Cal Meep 1000 has said, is what Lee Dosis said yesterday about how he was betting 20 a day, 20 pounds a fight to now over 400 pounds a fight real? No. Lee Dosis, if ever you've seen him in the comments and the live chat, he tells everyone he's one of my elite members. This isn't true. He is a fake account. He's actually a bot I developed to go around and tell everyone basically how cool I am. And it's basically me. It's a fake account. Lidosis is not real. So when he said yesterday, when he started out as an elite member, he was betting £20 a fight, and now he's betting 400 a fight, that is completely fake. Penal Erector has said, boys, what do you think of the Lee versus Gillespie fight? I'm going to do that in the breakdown video that I cover Gastelum and Till on. So I will get deep into that fight very, very soon. I researched that fight today. It should be a great fight. And it's a very complex fight as well. There's lots of different angles to look at in that matchup. I think it's a great one. So we will go deep on that fight for sure. MC Sweaty Balls has said, or Muck Sweaty Balls even, has said Till would be slower getting used to middleweight, give him a fight or two. Yeah, that's definitely a factor to take into consideration, man. Oh, Bopham Coach just become a VIP member. Thanks a lot, dude. I really appreciate it, mate. Thanks a lot, mate. I really, hopefully I can line your palms with silver to repay you, dude. I really appreciate it. Ground Zero has said, you are going with Diaz. He has shown that when he needs a fast start, he can hurt the opponent very early. He's in it to win it, so he'll probably take Masvidal down early in the first and keep it mixed up until Masvidal gasses. Very interesting perspective from Ground Zero. Zips has said, how often do you take CBD oil, mate? I ordered a 10 milliliter bottle of the same brand. So I take CBD. So I found that since I started YouTube, man, like I used to be like a really happy, positive person, and I found that since I started YouTube, like I just get bombarded with negativity all day. Like people giving me shit in the comments, people giving me shit in the chat room on my website, people sending me nasty emails, people sending me nasty DMs. So I found that I've just become like a lot more confrontational and a lot like angrier as a person. But when I take CBD, like it makes you happier. Like it takes that like aggressive, nasty edge off. So whenever I feel that I'm getting short with people or like confrontational, I'll take a huge hit of CBD, and that'll just chill me out. So like if you're in my chat room throughout the week and like people are winding me up and I'm being like aggressive towards them, and then the next minute I'm like trolling them and having fun, that's probably because I've taken CBD, because I've realised that I'm probably being a bit short. So I don't take CBD all the time, but when I feel myself getting a little bit short with people, because that's not me, man. I am a friendly guy, but when literally every time you look at your phone, every time you look at YouTube, Twitter, your emails, your website, every time you look at something, people are giving you shit and being negative towards you, it's really hard to stay positive. But CBD helps me. I'm not even going to say it changes my brain, but it just kind of maybe hits the reset button, and then I stop caring so much, and it just makes you feel a bit more positive. So yeah, I don't use it every day. I just use it when I take a lot of shit. So for example, last week wouldn't have really needed to use it much because it was like a low-key event. Not many people cared about it. But this week, because like everyone is amped up for this Diaz-Masvidal fight, loads of jabronis are popping up. So definitely taking it a lot more than I usually would this week. All right, boys. With that, let us. So Kieran, I have like. I'll show you what I use, man. I'll show you exactly what I use. I think Kamaru Usman actually is sponsored by this company. Let me see. Where are we? Shop. This stuff. This stuff. This stuff. So I use the 10% one, and I go for the big bottle because you save money if you buy it in bulk. But it doesn't look like they've got any of the big bottle in stock. No, that's not the one. So I buy a big bottle of this one. It's like £400, the biggest one they do. Yeah, I get this one. So it's basically like a droplet thing. You just pop it under the tongue. Happy days. That definitely calms me down, man. No doubt about it. So Godzilla Gandhi, yes, mate. For $20 a month, you get all the pre-fight picks. So, right, boys, right. Let's get into watching this fight. Rozenstruik against Kovalev. So, obviously, Rozenstruik is in the tiger camo shorts. Here we go. So, remember, earlier on we were talking about Arlovski's path to getting this fight to the ground is quite easy because Rozenstruik's not that mobile. He's quite flat-footed. Or you can imagine, he's also quite small for a heavyweight. If we look at the numbers here. Oh, that's wrong. There's no way he's 6'4". I'm sure he's 5'11". That can't be right. Let me check the UFC website. I'm sure I've seen somewhere that he's 5'11". You've always got to fact check Tapology, guys, because they quite often get the tail of the tape wrong. Let's take a look. If his stats are on here, he's not 6'4". No fucking way is he 6'4". Where are we? Is there a search engine or something on here? No search engine. Interesting. All right, let's see if we can find it on Google. Let's see. Sure dog. Is it this one? They have his stats. Height 76. What does that mean? 76 inches? What is 76 inches in feet? It's saying 6'3". That can't be right, boys. He looks way too small to be 6'3". I would actually be amazed if he's 6'3". I think it's just listed as wrong because he is new to the UFC. They probably haven't measured him up or anything correctly. He's on the small side for a heavyweight. I would be very, very surprised if he's 6'3". Maybe I'm wrong, but I think that Tapology look at him here. He does look quite small, boys. I'm sure I've seen somewhere that he's 5'11", which would make sense because he is quite small. But remember what I was saying about it not being that difficult to grab a hold of Rozenstruik. He does stand very flat-footed. he does invite the clinch. You know, when Albini wanted to come forward and grab a hold of him, it was quite easy for him to do so. So as you can see here with his flat-footed style, it's not going to be easy for Arlovski to grab a hold of him and drive him into the cage. Turning Screws is saying, Sherdog says 6'2". So yeah, obviously, another thing that I want to point out as we're watching this first round is Rozenstruik has obviously got 2 wins by knockout in his UFC debut. Now, the problem with flash KOs, and we see everyone making this mistake with Johnny Walker, we saw everyone make this mistake a few weeks back with Michel Pereira, it does still amaze me to this day. I mean, the UFC's been around for 25 years, and still to this day, guys are coming into the UFC, hitting the ground very, very strong, picking up like a series of flash KO wins early on in their career, and automatically people are thinking like they're the next title challenger, they're the next big thing. So everyone's crazy over Rozenstruik since his 9-second KO of Alan Crowder. But I mean, what does it really tell you? They always say that the shots that knock you out or the shots that put you down are the ones that you don't see. And Alan Crowder just got caught out by Rozenstruik's speed. You know, he walked right onto a jab, got dropped. And I mean, the follow-up shot from ground and pound was absolutely savage. It was devastating. But if you go back and watch the Albini-Rozenstruik fight, I'm not going to say the Rozenstruik hasn't got power in his hands, but he's not like mega dangerous. Like, you know, with a guy like Johnny Walker, we were watching footage of him in that, you know, Henrique de Silva fight yesterday, and even when he was gassed out of his mind, could barely stand up, he was super flat-footed, still in that third round when he landed clean, hard shots, you could see that the impact that they landed with was significant. But with Rozenstruik, you know, there were times in this fight where he was lighting Albini up and Albini was taking it. So with Rozenstruik, you're going to see a little bit of it here. Yes, he's very fast. Yes, he has great technique, but I don't think he's got scary power. I think he's dangerous. I think he's got the ability to knock people out because he's got that kind of speed that you don't often see in MMA because he's such a high-level kickboxer. But you know, even at 40 years old, Arlovski's chin is still pretty decent. I mean, if we take a look at Arlovski's record, hasn't been knocked out since he fought Francis Ngannou back in 2017. And of course, there's no shame in being knocked out by Ngannou. You know, prior to that, hadn't been knocked out since he fought Alistair Overeem back in 2016. He was actually looking very good in this fight before being knocked out. So, you know, even at 40 years old, Arlovski's chin is decent. He's fought some heavy hitters over the last few years. You know, Walt Harris, serious KO power. Tai Tuivasa, serious KO power. Albini hits hard. Taibura, vicious head kicks. So he's fought some heavy-handed guys, right? Even Augusto Sakai looked like an absolute killer in his last fight. So the point I'm trying to make is, you know, everyone's assuming that, you know, if this fight stays standing, you know, within a couple of minutes, Rozenstruik's going to go out there and absolutely starch Andrei Arlovski. I don't personally see it that way. Can it happen? 100%. 100%. Arlovski at this stage in his career is quite slow, quite predictable. His striking is quite basic, but at the same time, Rozenstruik's not like this devastating murderer that people portray him to be. So we are seeing a little bit of that here, a little bit flat-footed, you know, very traditional style, stood in front of his opponent. It's not like he's going to come out, walk Arlovski down, apply crazy pressure. And it, like I say, he does look small for the division. It's not like he's a huge physically imposing guy either. And one thing I did notice, I don't know what the reason for this is. You know, if you're a striking expert, please let me know in the comment section. But he was getting lit up at times with by Junior Albini. You know, Junior Albini was landing lots of clean, hard shots. You just saw him eat a big overhand right there from Andrei Kovalev. Now, I don't know if that's because his takedown defense, it's a very nice jab there, although fast hands from Kovalev, very nice. But I don't know if Rozenstruik eats a lot of shots because he understands his takedown defense is very bad, and you know, he's worried about his opponent shooting in, so he can't fully focus on defend. He eats another big right hand there. He can't fully focus on defending the strikes because he's worried about defending the takedown. I don't know if that's why his striking defense is questionable, or if it's because the range or something's different in MMA. Maybe it's not quite the same as kickboxing, but for whatever reason, I noticed that Albini was able to tag him quite a lot, and we're seeing the same thing, with Kovalev. And obviously, like I say, Rozenstruik is very fast, he is very technical, but people get carried away. When these guys come into the UFC and they start wrecking people within a couple of minutes, they automatically think they're going to be, the next world champion. These fights didn't tell us a lot about him, and now in this fight against Kovalev, you're seeing he's not really that scary. Yes, he's fast for a heavyweight. Yes, he's got good technique, but I could see Arlovski going the distance with him. Especially when you consider, guys that Arlovski's gone the distance with in the past. Like, would you say Rozenstruik is more dangerous than Walt Harris? I don't think so. Rozenstruik here, looks smaller than Harris. Doesn't really throw many kicks. Not as light on his feet as Harris. Doesn't fight as long as Harris. Harris is a southpaw. And yet Arlovski was able to go the distance with Rozenstruik. Do you see what I'm saying? Not with Rozenstruik, with Arlovski. So, yes, Rozenstruik will have an advantage from a technical point of view if the fight stays standing. If the fight stays standing, I definitely like Rozenstruik to outstrike Arlovski. But, it's not like Arlovski can go out there and he's got to get a takedown really fast, because there's no way he'll be able to survive with Rozenstruik standing. This is not like the Johnny Walker-Corey Anderson fight, where I feel confident in telling you, if that fight stays standing, Anderson's doomed. It's only going to be a matter of time before Walker knocks him out. I don't feel like there's that level of danger here for Arlovski. Especially considering the last guy to knock him out was Francis Ngannou very long time ago, and there's no shame in getting knocked out by Ngannou, obviously. And also, guys, I will actually say one of the reasons why Rozenstruik was able to knock Albini out was just because Albini started to engage in a firefight. He really just started to stand right in front of Rozenstruik and exchange big shots. And obviously that's suicide against the guy that hits this hard, as technical as Rozenstruik is. You see beautiful combinations there. Absolutely amazing combinations from Rozenstruik, but also got a beard on him. Ate one hell of a head kick there from Kovalev. Obviously we've got to bear in mind, these slow-mo replays are showing us Rozenstruik landing big shots on Kovalev. And obviously Andrei Arlovski's 40 years old. If we look at Kovalev, he's a young, hungry, tough 26-year-old Ukrainian. Most guys in that part of the world have got one hell of a chin. So, I'm sure if Rozenstruik landed these same sort of shots on Andrei Arlovski, could definitely knock him out. But for me, he doesn't look devastating, is basically what I'm trying to say to you. So in this second round here, we're going to see a little bit of Rozenstruik's takedown defense and ground game, because remember, before we came into, talking about this fight or watching this fight, we were saying that the big deciding factor in this matchup is whether Arlovski is going to try and get this fight to the ground or not. So we've seen a little bit of Rozenstruik striking here and what he brings to the table. I mean, even here when he's throwing kicks, moving backward, they're off balance. They're not too much power, not too much snap on them. You know what I mean? It's just Rozenstruik's decent. He is decent, but he's not blow your hair back. Top 10 fighter decent is the point I'm trying to make. And any minute now, it's been a while since I watched this fight, but I know that in the second round, Rozenstruik's takedown defense and ground game really gets tested. And I think that's when, if you're thinking about betting Rozenstruik in this fight, that's when you're really going to start to probably change your mind on this one, because it is quite clear that Rozenstruik has got gigantic holes in his skill set that, here we go. So double leg takedown from Kovalev. I mean, look, easily gets it, right? And I just want to stop it here just to talk about this in a little bit of detail. I'm going to try and pause it there. I mean, Rozenstruik's basically jumped to the ground. I mean, he hasn't put up any resistance at all. He's just let Kovalev pick him up and throw him to the ground. Now, obviously, it is more difficult to stuff takedowns in a ring than it is in a cage. I understand that. But at the same time, if you go back and watch Rozenstruik's fight against Junior Albini, the same weaknesses were there. Like I said, a strong gust of wind is enough to take Rozenstruik down. Go back and watch the Albini fight. You know, if you're too cheap to pay $9.99 to the UFC to watch that fight, I'm showing it to you right here. And Kovalev straight into side control. But, you know, Rozenstruik's got a good 3.5 minutes to work here. Plenty of time to improve his position. Plenty of time to work his way back to his feet. So let's just see what happens here. Can he improve his position? Can he work his way back to his feet? And a sign for me when a guy has literally no ground game is just how helpless they look off their back. I mean, Rozenstruik's legs dangling around here, shoulders flat out on the canvas. This guy's got no idea how to try and improve his position. He hasn't attempted to get half guard back once. All he's doing is keeping his left leg high to make it difficult for Kovalev to mount him. But Kovalev's not interested in mounting him here. He's just going to beat him up from side control. So the complicated thing about this fight is, does Rozenstruik have an advantage when the fight stays standing? 100%. Does Rozenstruik win if the fight stays standing? 100%. But generally speaking, if you bet on a fighter at favourite odds that looks this bad on the ground, you are not putting your money in a strong position. Because Arlovski might not even need to get a takedown here. What happens if Rozenstruik throws one of those lazy kicks off balance or a leg kick and Arlovski instinctively catches it and turns it into a takedown, ends up in top position? Well, there's no way Rozenstruik's going to be able to work his way back to his feet. Now, I don't know anything about Kovalev, but I do know a lot about Arlovski, and I can tell you Arlovski's top game is pretty damn heavy. You know, we can see there Kovalev actually has gone back to half guard, which is a better position for Rozenstruik to be in, and Rozenstruik then goes to try and sit up, and Kovalev realizes he's given Rozenstruik a little bit of space to improve his position, so he flattens his shoulders back out. But as you can see, Rozenstruik has been on the ground now for 2 minutes, and aside from lifting his left leg to prevent Kovalev from mounting him, and aside from, pinning down Kovalev's left leg, Rozenstruik's done nothing here. Absolutely nothing. He's made no attempt to get back to his feet. He's a sitting duck. Anyone with any type of ground game that Rozenstruik faces are going to be able to cause him big problems. Big problems. And Robinson Canolis has just said, I am just some dude that sits in his pants watching fights all day. If I can come up with a rock-solid game plan to easily beat this guy, what the hell do you think the coaches at ATT are going to be able to do? Mikey Brown has probably watched this fight, just like we're watching this fight now, and thought, fuck me, this is an easy night's work. Arlovski can literally go out, grab hold of him, get the body lock, drag him to the ground, and win an easy 30-24 decision all day long. 3 10-8 rounds, no problem. Just chipping away at this guy from half guard. That's the reality of it. But the problem is, we know for a fact, the fighters don't always take the easiest path to victory. They always want to make life difficult for themselves. So will Arlovski go out there and look to get the takedown and look to beat Rozenstruik up from top position? I mean, he probably won't. Maybe it'll take him getting rocked or eating a big shot to do it. But if at any point in the fight it does come, Rozenstruik's going to be in big trouble. Now, I can't actually remember the third round. Rozenstruik won a split decision in this fight. So I'm guessing that the majority of this fight stays standing. But you can see there what makes it impossible, in my opinion, to bet on Rozenstruik here. I always say, guys, I don't share opinions on this channel. I share facts. At the end of the day, these live research videos are amazing because I can show you the truth. No longer do I have to say, Rozenstruik's weaknesses are this, and this, and you have to take my word for it. I can show you the truth. And please understand, when I research these other fights, when I bring you a Diaz-Masvidal breakdown later in the week, when I bring you a Till-Gastelum breakdown tomorrow, please know that this is all I'm doing. I'm sat in my pants all day watching footage of these guys, and then in these videos I'm just relaying to you facts, you know. And we see a bit more of Rozenstruik's takedown defense there. This time, instead of shooting a double leg, Kovalev chooses to shoot a single leg. So we can look at what Rozenstruik's doing here. So on this occasion, different technique is what Kovalev's gone to. And here we see Rozenstruik showing good balance. And now what I would say is, in a cage, it's going to be much easier for Rozenstruik's balance to help him keep the fight standing. So obviously, where he's trying to use his balance to stuff this takedown, as he's being pushed back, the cage is like a stable structure for him to put his body weight on and keep balance, keep the fight standing. Whereas the ring gives way. It's much more difficult to keep a fight standing when you've only got the ring to help you defend the takedown. But there, Kovalev abandons the single leg, goes with the body lock takedown. But it's difficult to get a body lock takedown here because he's right in the corner. He's obviously sandwiched in the corner. Now Kovalev does actually briefly get the body lock takedown, but not at a good angle, because obviously Rozenstruik was able to explode out of that position. Now we see a little bit of Rozenstruik's top game in Kovalev's half guard. What can he get going here? And I mean, if his ground and pound in the Crowder fight, I mean, it wasn't really ground and pound, it was a follow-up shot after a knockdown. But if he can generate that kind of power to a downed opponent, I dread to think what his ground and pound is going to be like. Obviously, when you're that weak on the bottom, you must be at significant risk of getting swept here from the top. But Kovalev choosing to go to his full guard here. And for me, Kovalev may be looking a little bit tired here. You know, the way that he flopped to his back off the body lock takedown. The way that he just went to closed guard. You know, when a fighter goes to closed guard, that's basically them accepting being on the bottom. So, to me, this looks like Kovalev's a little bit tired to me. And he's kind of just accepting being on the bottom here. You know, Rozenstruik giving him a lot of space here to explode back to his feet. I mean, you know, Rozenstruik basically gave him an invitation to stand back up there, and Kovalev still wasn't sure whether he wanted to accept that invitation or not. And as we see, as they stand back up the midway point of this third round, we could just see there Kovalev taking some deep breaths, laboured movement, not as light on his feet as he was in the first round, definitely not as much pop in his shot. So to me, it looks like Kovalev gassed out in this third round, which is strange because he was really allowed to dictate the pace in the second and control the fight. And obviously, because he's getting tired, Rozenstruik's now having a lot more success landing his headshots because Kovalev's hands are low. He's very tired. He just doesn't have the energy, doesn't have the sharpness. And there again, we can see he just flops to his back, went for a desperation takedown. And Kovalev's very tired here. So we're not really learning too much about Rozenstruik now, because his opponent out of nowhere is gassed out. I mean, he wasn't really looking that tired in round two, and then out of nowhere he has got very tired. So I don't think we need to see anything else there. Not a lot more we can learn about Rozenstruik. Unfortunately, that is the only fight of his that I can play you. Couldn't find these fights online. These are from way too long ago, and this fight ended really, really quickly. So boys, what we will do is we will answer any questions you've got in the live chat after I summarize how I feel about this fight, boys. So if you want to ask me a question about this fight or anything else, leave a comment in the Twitch live chat and I will answer them in just a sec. I'm just going to have a quick drink. Because remember, boys, this is a live research session, right? I am here with you right now, making my mind up, yeah. And I always say I don't like to be put on the spot. I like to think a little bit, you know. I take a little bit of time to think, consider all options. I quite often like to sleep on things before I make my decision. You know, there have been videos like this where I've given out bets to you. Remember, we bet on Makhmed Muradov to beat who was it? It was Alicio De Chirico. We bet on him. That was a winning bet in one of these live research videos. One of these live research videos, we also decided to bet on Cub Swanson together against Kron Gracie. And just last week we did one of these live research videos, and we decided to bet on Damian Maia to beat Ben Askren. So quite often I do come up with bets in these live research videos, but then on other times I need to go away and think things through. And this could be one of those fights. I'll just have a little drink just to gather my thoughts while you bang some comments into the live chat on Twitch. All right, let's have a look. Let's have a look at the odds. Okay. So I think it's fair to say, based on what I've shown you, that there's just no way you can bet Rozenstruik here. To gain any value on Rozenstruik at all, you'd have to cap him at 65%. And quite honestly, I don't think you can cap anyone with takedown defense or a ground game that bad at 65% against anyone in the division. I don't care who Rozenstruik's fighting. If it's in the UFC, the vast majority of fighters are going to possess the ability to cause him major problems on the ground if the fight goes to the ground. So if you really understand what probability means, if you really understand what probabilities are, you'll know that to get to a 65% probability on Rozenstruik's ludicrous, especially against a guy like Arlovski, who's got a base in Sambo. I know he hasn't used it for a very, very long time, but he does train at one of the best gyms in the world, and if he wants an easy payday on Saturday night, he will go back to his roots, get this fight to the ground off a bodylock takedown, and utterly dominate Rozenstruik. So then, if we look at the odds on Arlovski, then we've got a real decision to make, because he's currently a 2.30 underdog, which is plus 130 for an implied probability of 43%. Which means to gain any value on Arlovski, you've got to give him a 50% chance of winning. And that is difficult for me for a couple of reasons. The first reason being, we've seen him face guys with really bad takedown defense in the past. Walt Harris and Tai Tuivasa in particular. And yet he chose to keep these fights standing. Didn't really attempt any takedowns in those fights. So, even though it would be an easy night's work for him to go to his wrestling in this fight, the fact that he could have done that in the Tuivasa fight and won easily is a big red flag for me. So that's the first reason why I'm finding it difficult to get to 50%. Obviously, the second reason is because it's undeniable that Rozenstruik has a big advantage when it comes to striking. At 40 years old, Father Time has caught up with Arlovski in a big way. He's definitely not the fighter that he used to be. He's quite slow now. He lacks knockout power. And while his chin is still decent at this stage in his career, we can see he's fought a lot of heavy hitters over the last few years and hasn't been knocked out by any of them. At the end of the day, like they say, the shots that knock you out are the ones that you don't see coming. And even though Rozenstruik isn't that powerful, he still has excellent technique and he's very, very fast for a heavyweight, deceptively fast. And they say, as you get older, one of the first things to go are your reflexes. And, if Arlovski's, too slow to react to a power shock that Rozenstruik throws at him, could definitely catch him and put him out. So, with that being said, the current odds, I think, are very, very accurate, and this should not be a surprise to you. At the end of the day, these betting websites are giant multi-billion, multinational companies. It is their job to bait you into making bad betting decisions. That's how they make money. And ultimately, this fight is capped very accurately, as the majority of fights will be. I can't argue with the odds on this fight. 1.67, which is minus 149, roughly 60%. And then if we look at the odds on Arlovski, 2.30 plus 130, roughly 43%. This is roughly a 60-40 fight in favour of Rozenstruik in the bookies' eyes, and I completely agree with them. At the end of the day, Rozenstruik might have improved his takedown defence. He's a lot younger, big striking advantage. Arlovski doesn't usually go for takedowns. It's as simple as that. It is as simple as that. And let me know, boys, in the live chat if you agree. So that is how I see this fight. It's going to be a pass for me. Again, sorry to be boring, but I like money. I don't care about being the smartest guy in the bar. And I think if you bet this fight, no matter who you go for, no matter whether you think Rozenstruik will win, no matter whether you think Arlovski will win, no matter who you go for, you're putting your money in a weak position. So the smartest thing to do is pass, boys. And then protect your cash. So I'll now go through the live chat on Twitch, answer all your questions, and then that will be it for this live stream, boys. Let's take a look at the questions. Cal Meep 1000's asked my thoughts on Gregor Gillespie. If this video gets 300 likes, I will do a breakdown on that Gillespie and Lee fight tomorrow, man. I don't really want to go into it now because it is a complex fight. I've got a lot to say on it, and this video will end up being super low if I get into that fight. Colt45 has said Arlovski's chin is underrated. How is Rozenstruik's cardio? Good question, Colt40, because it actually reminds me to mention something. So Rozenstruik's cardio obviously looked great in that fight against Andrei Kovalev from back in May 2018. But remember, there's no drug testing in Rising. So, you know, obviously I never want to accuse a fighter of anything, but many fighters do take performance-enhancing drugs, especially outside of the UFC. So maybe, you know, back in his kickboxing career, you know, earlier in his MMA career, maybe Rozenstruik was using performance-enhancing drugs. Maybe he isn't anymore because he used strict USADA drug tests in the UFC. So that's something to bear in mind as well. Penal Erecto just saying that Arlovski ate some big shots from Tuivasa. 100%, man. Arlovski's chin's still pretty decent for a 40-year-old. Mastered by Jazz is saying maybe the play is the over 1.5 rounds. Is it over set or over 1.5 rounds? That would be a surprise. No odds out for the over 1.5 rounds yet. But yeah, that might be something to look at, mate. Kamikaze82 is saying the Rozenstruik doesn't look that good when he's being backed up. Yeah, I definitely agree with you, mate. If you go back and watch his fight against Junior Albini, and you know, earlier on I was saying that Albini was lighting him up at times and landing some big shots. Albini's shots, you know, the biggest shots Albini was landing were when he was coming forward and pressuring Rozenstruik. But remember, like we saw in the fight against Kovalev when he ate that head kick, he's definitely got a decent chin. And if he got into a firefight with Arlovski, you'd definitely take Rozenstruik over him. Calmeep 1000 said, who are some of your favourite members on the site? Man, I can't have favourites, dude. I can't answer that. Robinson Canola saying Rozenstruik looks helpless on the ground. He does, man. Paul Hardy 21 is saying, is it crazy to cap Arlovski at 55%? I don't think it's crazy, man. It's not personally where I would cap it, but like I'm sure you can make a strong case for 55%. You know, experience is on his side, grappling's on his side, decent chin. Maybe if you knew a little bit more about the game plan Arlovski was going to come in with, and we knew he was going to come in with a grappling heavy game plan, you could definitely get up to 55-60%. Paul Hardy 21 saying if Arlovski sticks to a wrestling game plan, he wins so easily. Yeah, 100%, mate. I agree with you. Quastradamus is saying Anderson's odds are up to 11-8. How high do they need to be for you to consider betting him? Let's take a look, man. I'm not too familiar with fractional odds. Not high enough. For me to bet on Anderson, I would need around, I would say, 2.80, because 2.80 means that if the fight in reality should be capped at 60-40 because every fight starts standing, with, you know, this implied probability coming out at 36% at odds of 2.80, which is plus 180. That means that if it was a 60-40 fight and I was capping it wrong at 50-50, I'd still get a 4% margin on Anderson. So 2.80 is what I would need. I mean, they're nowhere near there now, but I mean, there's so much hype on Walker, and there's so much dumb money flying around on this card. Like, I've seen some people come into the chat room this week and say some stuff about the fights taking place this weekend. They're just way off. So there's so much dumb money flying around on this card that I think this Friday going into Saturday, I think we're going to see tons of line movement on these fights. And that's one of the reasons why, I am really reluctant to put out breakdowns for these fights, because, we've seen it in the past where I've put videos out. It's had an impact on the odds. And there are so many guys that I'm thinking about betting this weekend. But I'm pretty fucking sure that if I wait, their odds are going to improve because of all the dumb money that will be flying around on fight day. So if I just wait, it's better for everyone. It's better for you guys because you get better odds. If I go and bang out a load of breakdown videos now on these fights that I think are good for betting, then the odds are never going to get to where we want them to be. They're just going to either decline because every one of you watching is just going to jump on them, or they're just going to stagnate. So that's why at the moment I'm bringing out these fights that, where I don't think the odds are going to improve, because I think we're going to see a lot of dumb money on Friday and Saturday, and we might see some excellent betting opportunities if we just stay patient and wait till later on in the week. Paul Hardy 21 saying, I got Anderson at 6-4 a few weeks ago. I thought that was worth it, but I don't bet more than £40 a unit at the moment. Let's see what 6-4 is. Yeah, man. I don't think that's a bad bet. Definitely won't say that's a bad bet, dude. I really hope he comes through for you. I think, it's not a bad bet, dude. It's just maybe not as good a risk to ratio reward as I would like personally, but it's definitely not a bad bet. Everyone's different, right? Everyone's got different pain tolerance. Everyone's got different risk to reward ratios they're happy to take. So everyone is saying that they are passing on this fight. I think that's a good decision. Okay, so Penal Erecto is asking for a wiki cap assessment of the Masvidal versus Diaz fight. I guess just like all the other YouTubers that make prediction videos, let's do a wiki cap, shall we, boys? So if I was a wiki capper, what I would say is probably something like, what have we got here? Any common opponents? None really. I'm guessing they would probably say something like Masvidal's 2-2 in his last 2 fights, but his last fight against Ben Askren was a lucky win because Askren's better than Khabib. And if Askren would have been able to have got hold of Masvidal, it would have been utter domination. Nate's won 3 of his last 4. Nate's record's better, therefore Nate's going to win. That's what a wiki capper would say. Kamikaze82 is asking if Rozenstruik's striking is that much better than Arlovski's. Yeah, it is for sure, man. There's a big difference. If you go and watch any of Arlovski's fights over the last 2 years, you'll see that he's like really slow, really stiff, really basic. Rozenstruik's going to be able to light him up like a Christmas tree. If the fight stays standing, it'll be total domination. If you're asking me to cap the fight, so if you were to say to me that we've got a crystal ball and we can tell you 100% that this fight stays standing, in a stand-up fight, what probability do you give Rozenstruik of winning? I'd probably say like 80%. 8-0. His striking's a lot better than Arlovski's. People are betting on who they think I'm going to pick in the Diaz-Jorge fight. Quastradamus says 4-7 Diaz. I don't know what fractional odds are. 4-7, 1.57, and 11-8 for Masvidal. Jorge Gamebird Masvidal, 2.38. So Quastradamus has opened the book and thinks that I will be betting Diaz this weekend. I didn't think I was that good at keeping secrets, boys, but We will see what happens. I'm not being a dick. I don't want it. I wish like you weren't doing this, boys. I wish you weren't like all secret squirrel and shit, boys. I really wish you weren't. I'm not being a dick. I'm not like, oh, I'm not telling you who I'm going to pick. I'm not telling you who I'm going to bet. I don't want to do that, boys. Genuinely, boys. Look. This is a real thing. I don't want to be a dick. And not like, I'm not telling you. It's not about that, right? I'm being made to feel very uncomfortable on these live streams. Look at the views, boys. 5.2 thousand. Right. Look at the views on, 11,000 views. The views on, where's the Adesanya one? Adesanya. 5.3 thousand views. And I posted that Friday night. What was the last big fight we had? Cormier Miocic, 7,500 views. So my problem is, if I put a video out and that many people watch it and I say go and bet Masvidal or Diaz, even if just 10% of them go out and bet Diaz or Masvidal, that's going to move the line. And if it doesn't move the line, it's at least going to stop the line from improving. You guys would be amazed. It does not take that much money to move the odds. People are always like, you're not that fucking important. Do you know what I mean? You don't move the line. It's like, please, bitch, please understand. It does not take much money to move the odds. You can do it yourself with a couple grand. And when you have a massive cumulative total of money being bet collectively across a few hundred or maybe just a couple of thousand people, if a video is getting 10,000 views, trust me, you will move the line. You will affect the line. So I hate to be all like, oh, I'm not telling you. I'd rather just not say anything. And then when the time is right, then I will share my opinion. But the time is not right yet, boys. Remember, this is all about making money. You understand? This is all about making money, playing the odds, making good betting decisions, putting your money in strong positions. And why jump the gun? Why rush? When if you just wait, you might be able to get a much better deal. You know what I mean? It's kind of like, so for example, I'm looking to buy a car at the moment, right? I need to buy a car, like, now. I need a new car, boys, right? Our family car is like 12 years old, it's falling apart. I've got the money right now to buy a new car, but I'm not going to go and buy a new car. Do you know why I'm not going to go buy a new car? I'm not going to buy a new car because in 3 months' time, it's January. And how many people do you think buy cars in January? No one's got any money in January to buy cars. Everyone's broke after Christmas. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to walk into a dealership in January with a big bag of cash and I'm going to get an amazing deal because they don't sell many cars in January. And if I go in there and tell them I'm very serious about buying a fucking car, they will give me a good deal. Do you understand what I'm saying? Sometimes you got to be patient to get a good deal. And that's like the best example I can think of. It's a real example. I am actually going to go and buy a car in January. Whereas if I go now, I'm just going to be another customer. It's October. I'm just going to be another dude. They'll probably try and hardball me and haggle me and I won't get as good a deal. It's the same thing with this fight. You just got to be patient and wait for the right time. So I'm not being secret squirrel. I don't want to be like a dick. I personally want to wait because I want to bet this fight. And if I tell you guys who you should bet, I'm not going to make as much money. That ain't fair. That's not fair. Do you know what I mean? Come on, boys. We will get there, but the time is not right yet. We need to chill and pretend the Masvidal-Diaz fight is not happening. Let's just put it out of our mind, ignore it until later on in the week. Let all that dumb money flow in that doesn't understand fighting, that don't do their research, that don't do their homework. Let all that dumb money fly in. All those jabronis betting guys like Ben Askren and Chrome Gracie over the last few weeks. And they will pay our bills later in the week, trust me. We just have to chill. OG Tim Hall has said, do you put any stock in how Rozenstruik looked in round 3 after spending round 2 on his back and how much Arlovski faded in round 3 against Ben? Yeah, it's a really good point, man. You would definitely say Rozenstruik's got one hell of a cardio advantage. If that fight goes into the 3rd round, like you say, man, Arlovski could be in a lot of trouble. It's a really good point, man. Don Duffy has said, do you think Masvidal can keep a calm head after being slapped when he can't even stay calm with a brummie saying hello? That is true. That is true. What I'm curious is If Diaz Stockton slaps Masvidal, is Masvidal going to catch him with a bargain bucket with a side of coleslaw and a 2-litre bottle of Pepsi? Who knows, man? Who knows? It's a good question, though, man. That did make me chuckle. Brummy saying hello. For anyone not in the UK that doesn't know what a Brummy is someone from Birmingham, and Leon Edwards is from Birmingham. So Don Duffy's basically saying if Masvidal goes crazy after Leon Edwards just says a few words to him, how is he going to react if Diaz slaps him across the face? Penal Erector saying that he doesn't think Diaz will slap Masvidal. He slapped Pettis and he slapped Conor. I think Diaz slaps everyone when the fight goes long. You know, if it gets in the second and third round, when Diaz starts to find his range, it's definitely going to be some Stockton slaps. He slaps everyone. It's like this cool thing, right? That well, when Diaz lights someone up with a combination, he'll often end the combination with a Stockton slap, and then he'll kind of point at them and smile and say, "I got you." And what's interesting is, a lot of the time when Masvidal eats a big shot, he will acknowledge, he's so comfortable in the exchanges that he will acknowledge that his opponent's landed a good shot, and he'll kind of smile and bump fists and poke his tongue out at them. So I think there could be a lot of gamesmanship in this fight. Boys, you're killing me. Boys, you are killing me. You are all saying some interesting stuff. So I am not saying who I think will bet here this weekend, but everyone's saying some mad shit. So for example, Colt 45 has said that with the reach advantage and quick chokes, he sees Nate subbing Masvidal. Now, dude, no disrespect, but this is what I say when people come in my chat room and they say mad stuff. Masvidal went the distance with Damian Maia. Damian backpacked him for 8 minutes of that fight. If Damian fucking Maia can't submit Masvidal, why do you think Nate Diaz will be able to? If you look at Diaz's record, it's not like he's a fucking submission phenom. In his last 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 fights, he's got 1 win by submission against a Conor who was gassed out of his mind. Do you see what I'm saying? It's when people say stuff like this, I'm like, I've read it in the chat room this week, Diaz is going to submit Jorge. Really? Jorge went the distance with Maia. Where do these perspectives come from? I don't get it. I don't get it. Makes no sense to me. And similarly, people will be like, I think Masvidal is just going to knock Diaz out. And I'm like, where the fuck has that come from? Do you know what I mean? If you go back and watch Diaz's fight against Conor, the amount of damage he took in that first and second fight was quite staggering. It was quite unbelievable. And then if you go back and look at Masvidal's record, I know that he's picked up a couple of impressive highlight reel knockouts over the last couple of years. But then, is knocking out Cerrone and Ellenberger at this stage in their career that impressive? Not really. 2 chinny guys. Prior to that, Masvidal was a bit of a decision machine. Decision against Larkin, decision against Henderson, decision against Iaquinta, decision against Krause, decision against Cruikshank, decision against Healy, decision against Kabalov, decision against Means, decision against Wilcox, decision against Melendez, decision against Nunes. Do you see what I'm saying? So it's the people just toss out these crazy perspectives out into the universe, and I'm like, what facts are you basing that on? That's why I always say on this channel, we don't share opinions, we share facts. All I'm going to do is watch all of Masvidal's recent fights, all of Diaz's fights, and then tell you guys exactly how it is. And still, I'll get jabronis in the comments being like, oh no, you're wrong, bro. Diaz is going to submit him. Okay, sure. Whatever you say, bro. Whatever you say. Call Me App 1000 has said, what do you think about people who bet the opening odds? Good question. It always makes me laugh, man. There are all these people that pretend to be cappers, pretend to talk about fights. You know what I mean? And they've got a YouTube channel. They do weekly predictions videos and stuff. And literally, I had to stop following all of them on Twitter because it makes me laugh. The odds will get released 3 weeks before a card. And they'll be like, oh, just fucking max bet Peter Yan to beat Uriah Faber at minus 250. Odds are crazy. And I'm like, my God, bro. Literally, you want to be taken seriously. You've got a YouTube channel. You know, you're brave enough to share your predictions and your picks and your bet online, but you have literally just highlighted to someone that you are the biggest amateur fraud jabroni in the world, because anyone that goes out and bets on those fucking opening lines knows that the max bet limit is $50 to $250. So by going out and bragging that you've just smashed an opening line, not only have you destroyed the odds for everyone, and help the bookies correct their inaccurate odds. Not only have you done that, but you've also signalled to everyone that you're a low-stakes gambler that basically bets peanuts on fights. Why would you trust the opinion of someone that bets peanuts on fights? It makes absolutely no sense to me. So you've got all these guys with YouTube channels, all these guys giving out picks and predictions and talking like experts on Twitter, rushing out to bet these opening lines, crushing those $50 max bet limits, and I'm like, seriously, it is not worth my fucking energy to go onto a website and max bet something with a $100 max bet limit and destroy the odds for everyone else just so I can brag about it on Twitter. It's just come on, boys. It does piss me off, because to me personally, I'll tell you a little bit of a story about my website. So I never ever planned to have a website. I was making a lot of money from betting on MMA 10 years ago. I started. Pretty soon on, I was profitable, and within 2 or 3 years, I was making a lot of money from betting on MMA through compound interest. And the sport used to be way easier to make money on back then, because many fights had a classic striker versus grappler dynamic, so they were quite easy to predict. Whereas in 2019, the sport has evolved a lot over the last 10 years, and now for the most part, most fighters are reasonably good at everything, which makes the sport much more difficult to predict. But back then, you could absolutely crush it. And it's just, back in the day, the reason why I got online and set up a website was because I kind of felt wronged by the bookies. I remember, it was probably about 2 or 3 years in, I made about £12,000 off my first Bet365 account, and I got shut down. And I felt just a massive sense of injustice, because I'd worked so hard, to stay disciplined and grind that money up from literally nothing, from £200, made a massive amount on that first account. And when they closed my account down and told me to fuck off, it was at the stage in my life where I didn't have much money, £12,000, it was fucking life-changing. And I was just so fucking annoyed that I had developed this skill. I had this skill that I'd worked so hard over the years to develop. And I couldn't use it because the bookies wanted me to play a game that only they could win. As soon as you start to get profitable, they shut you down. So I was like, fuck you. I was literally like, fuck you. If I can't make money gambling on your website, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to set up a website, and I'm going to put all my information on the website so other people can cost you money. So that if I can't take your money from you, I will fuck you in another way. And that was the origin of the website. And for me, I have always been kind of an us against them mentality, right? So all of you guys watching this, all the members on my website and me, we are going to war every single weekend with the bookies, because they're disgusting. They are disgusting businesses. They are forcing you to play a game that you can't win, because as soon as you start to make money, they shut you down. Do you understand what I'm saying? So when the bookies release these opening odds, they're super inaccurate. I mean, we can look at it this weekend, right? Pick out an example, maybe Gastelum. That's not a good example. Maybe let's pick out who have we. What were Masvidal's opening odds? Okay, all right, okay. Let's have a look. Let's have a look. I can't find a good example. There were loads of examples last week. Who did we have last week? Give me an example. Gillespie. Just when I need an example, I can't find an example. Oh, Peter Yan's a good example. I saw a bunch of jabronis bragging about and betting the opening line on Peter Yan. So if you look at Peter Yan to beat Uriah Faber, right, his odds opened at 1.38, which carried a lot of value. I know it's a big favourite, but it's a lot of value. So Peter Yan's odds get published onto the betting site at odds of 1.38. The bookies then set super low maximum bet limits between $50 and $250, and every time that cumulative total of money is bet on Peter Yan, the odds decline. So for example, when the odds get posted on the website, if you go on there and you bet $50 on Peter Yan, and then someone else bets $50 on Peter Yan, and then someone else bets $150 on Peter Yan, that cumulative total of money, which is $250, will then mean the odds on Yan automatically decline. So what happens is all these fucking jabronis go out and smash these opening lines, help the bookies out for basically peanuts, and ruin them for everyone else. And it's fucking annoying because in my book, we should all be working as a team to take on the bookies, to crush the bookies. Fuck the bookies because they're evil. But instead, these fucking jabronis that put out shitty fucking wiki-capped YouTube videos that don't know anything about what they're talking about, that still have been doing this for years and only bet a few $100s per fight. They want to smash opening lines and then tweet bragging about it. Oh, just fucking smash Peter Yan at minus 250, loads of value, max bet. What the fuck are you talking about, bro? Like, literally, get out of my face. You are such a jabroni. But there are so many of these guys out there. So yes, what do I think about people who bet opening odds? I think they're fucking jabronis. Because if we all work together, what that would actually do is it would make the bookies, it would basically back the bookies into a corner. Because the closer that it gets to fight time, the more they have to improve liquidity, the more they have to improve the max bet limits. But at the moment, they set max bet limits so low, they let these guys go out and do their work for them for like peanuts. It's so annoying. It's so fucking annoying. But what can you do, man? That is the way it is. People will be people at the end of the day. What can you do? Sorry for the rant, boys. It's not something I've ever been asked before, asked to speak about. But yeah, if you bet opening lines and you think you're smart, you are basically a cunt, in my opinion. That's just the way it is, man. And if you see anyone bragging online about smashing opening lines, call them a cunt. Because to me, they're just fucking jabronis, man. Jabronis. I can't say anything nice about them at all. Yeah, sorry for the rant, boys. Let's see if we got any more questions. People thinking they're going to bait me into telling them who I think will win in this Masvidal versus Diaz fight. Maybe I've already slipped up. Who knows, man? Maybe I've already let the cat out the bag. CalMeep1000 has asked, how much do I bet on average? So usually the way I do things is I'll have between like 5 and 7 betting sites or betting accounts open on sites at any one time, and then I will bet like significant percentages of each of those betting accounts. So say for example I've got like £2,000 in one, I will bet like £500 to £700 on that site. Say I've got like £3,000 in another, I'll bet like 800 or 1,000 on that site, and I will go down the line and bet like maybe like 20. I would say on each account balance, I'll bet like 10% to 40% of my account balance on each bet, but across 5 to 7 different sites. So usually you'd be looking at, I'll be betting anywhere from say £1,000 up to maybe £6,000 or £7,000 per fight. But it's highly variable, because remember that betting sites, they close you down after you've been like making money consistently for a set period of time. So it's not like you can build up huge account balances on these sites, because once you get to like 2, 3, 4, 5,000 pounds in an account balance, you're just going to get shut down, and then you're back to square one. Then you have to make a fresh deposit. So the amount I bet per fight is highly variable. So for example, say the 7 accounts that I've been working with, I've had them for a while, I've been building them up, and they've all got maybe £4,000 or £5,000 in each. Well, in that instance, you know, if I'm betting 10% to 40% of the account balances of these sites, which have got £5,000 in each, then, you know, you're betting on average maybe, you know, £1,000 to £2,000 per account. That could be anywhere upwards to, you know, £14,000 a bet. But then if I'm dealing with 7 accounts which are brand new, I haven't had them that long, I haven't really started to grind them up that much. Say for example, I've only got maybe £1,000 in each of them, that's £7,000 total. If I'm betting 10 to 40% of these 7 account balances, well, if you look at 10 to 40% of 1,000, that's only going to be like £100 to £400. Multiplied by 7, I might only be betting, you know, £700, £500 to £2,000 a fight. So the amount I bet per fight is highly, highly variable on how much money I've got in betting accounts at any one time. It's super complicated, but this is why I don't like talking about it too much, because it's a very, very, very deep rabbit hole to go down. And basically a system that works for me. It won't work for everyone, but for my particular style of betting, with the majority of the money I earn being through live betting, that's just basically how I like to work. It's like the optimum way for me to bet. But I'm sure that over time, you know, it always develops. So I always tweak it, and I'm sure it will change over time. So Matty Betts 8434 has said, do you think the huge payday could take Masvidal's edge away? Based on previous interviews, it seems like that is all he's been working for. Does he not have the animosity towards Nate because Nate called him out and helped him get the huge money fight? Yeah, man. I mean, if you boys have got a bit of spare time, I will leave a link to this in the description below. Eddie Hearn actually talks a little bit about this. Eddie Hearn, True Geordie. So True Geordie is a UK podcaster. He just dropped an amazing podcast this afternoon, which I've listened to while I was researching the Arlovski fight. And Eddie Hearn talks a little bit in this interview. Oh, that's not a very flattering shot. There you go. He looks better there. Sorry, Eddie. He talks a little bit about this, where he's saying, like, you know, it's not easy to get out of bed to go for a run in the morning when you're sleeping in satin sheets. You know what I mean? It's a very good point. Eddie Hearn talks a little bit about that on the podcast, how he's seen, you know, money and success and fame affect fighters' motivations. And he was talking specifically to Anthony Joshua's situation when he lost to Ruiz. So it's worth checking that out. And it's a really good point, Matty Betts. 100%. I mean, if we look at Nate Diaz, you know, Nate Diaz has had a huge payday with that Conor McGregor fight. I mean, the first Conor McGregor fight, but then still in the second Conor McGregor fight and in the Anthony Pettis fight, he still came back, still had the dog in him, still looked better than ever, right? Whereas Masvidal, we haven't seen how he reacts to the big paydays and the fame. You know, has he lost a step? Has he lost motivation? Personally, I think that it's unlikely, because for me, this is his big payday. This is his big opportunity. So if Masvidal was to be affected by the money and fame, I think it would come after this fight. But I think personally for this fight, he'll be more motivated than ever before, because this is the biggest shot of his career. This is the fight that if he wins is going to catapult him to get him to where he always dreamed of being. So you know, even though he's being flown out to the fight in a private jet, he's earning more money than ever before, you know, he's got more fame than ever before, I think he's smart enough to know how important this fight is, and he hasn't achieved anything yet. That win over Ben Askren got him close. It doesn't get him over the line. But it is a very, very good point, man. It is a good point. MC Kanye has said that some wiki cappers are saying that Conor hits harder than Masvidal. Is this true? Yeah, definitely, man. Masvidal's not really a power striker. He's more of a volume guy, whereas Conor's got like that single shot power to put you to, sleep. So yeah, definitely agree with the wiki cappers on that one. 100%. Dradnail17 is just basically said, is that why odds move so much after release? I thought it was the bookies just adjusting their lines. Yeah, so basically, if you think of what the betting sites are, they're called bookies, right? So the bookies' job is just to balance the books, and the way they do that is letting people do it for them. So ultimately, depending on how much money is wagered each side, will depend on where the odds need to be. So they'll set super low maximum bet limits on the two fighters, and then they'll just let the public bet and bet and bet to adjust the odds up and down, depending on how much money is wagered on either side. And the closer you get to a sporting event, any sporting event, it doesn't matter if it's a baseball game, hockey game, boxing match, UFC fight, basically the closer you get to the time of the event, the higher the max bet limits get. And that's what you call building up liquidity. Liquidity is the total amount of money bet on a certain sporting event. And over time, as the liquidity builds, it takes more and more money to move the odds. So you can imagine, when the odds for Masvidal and Diaz were first released, well, there's no liquidity there. No money has been bet on day one. So they've got to set the max bet limits super low. Because if they set the odds completely wrong and someone comes in with a huge max bet, like millions of dollars, and bets one guy, well, they could seriously cost the bookies a lot of money. So they set the max bet limits really low to manage their risk, so that they know, the public are going to correct these odds for us by jumping all over the opening lines. And then the closer that you get to the fight time, as the days go by, more money gets bet on the fight, liquidity builds up, which means by the time you get to the day of the fight, a ton of money's been bet on the fight. Liquidity is really, really big. A lot of money's been bet. So then they can increase the max bet limits, because if someone does want to come then and place a huge bet on either fighter, there's enough money on both sides for the bookie to balance the books and absorb that big bet. That's basically how it works. So liquidity at the beginning is very, very small, and then slowly builds up. So Irish Brother 40 is asking for advice on bankroll management. You know what, dude? Bankroll management is a really, really complex topic, because everyone online, it doesn't matter if it's Pinnacle Sports or all the dudes that you watch on YouTube, they all recommend this bullshit 1 unit equals 1% of your bankroll strategy. And that strategy is total horseshit. It just doesn't work. It's a complete load of shit. I've got my own way of doing things. It won't work for everyone, but it works very well for me. I've used a lot. Well, I've been able to make a hell of a lot of money using the strategy I use, but it is incredibly nuanced and incredibly complex, and it would take a very long video to fully explain it without confusing you. So what I'm actually going to do, boys, and I know Irish Brother 40, I think you are one of my VIP members, so that is why I am talking to you about this. Forgive me if you are not one of my VIP members. But if you are one of my VIP members, dude, I've got something coming up very, very interesting for you soon. So this week, this year has been ridiculous. Like, literally more MMA than ever before. We've had back-to-back UFC events almost every weekend. More Bellator events than ever before. But in a few weeks' time, after November the 16th, we've got a very nice 3-week break in between these UFC events. So, when we're having back-to-back UFCs every weekend, all I've got enough time to do is basically research fights, produce these videos. That's literally it. I ain't got time to do anything else. But in this 3-week break, I've got time to do other shit. So what I'm going to do, during that break, I'm going to build a members area section of my website for all VIP members, all elite members. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to create a page on that website. And what you're going to be able to do is leave a comment on that page for a video topic that you would like me to produce. So it could be talking about bankroll management, could be talking about understanding probabilities on a deep level, could be talking about like the nuances of takedown defense, could be anything you want, right? Anything you want, staking strategies, how to cap fights, anything you want. You could leave a comment on that page, and then just like Reddit, other elite members and VIP members will be able to vote on each comment, and every month the comment that gets the most votes, I will make an exclusive video on the website, exclusive to members, tackling that topic. So for example, if you wanted to know about how I use compound interest, if you wanted to know about how I use bankroll management, you can leave a comment on there. Other members will be able to vote, and if it gets the most votes, I will do a video on it. And these videos will be super deep. They won't be glossed over. I will really go deep down the rabbit hole with them. And beforehand, I'll also make them super interactive. I will create another page where you'll be able to, once the voting period's ended, I will announce what the topic of the upcoming video will be, and then I'll give you guys like a week to leave comments on the topic that you want me to answer and address and cover and explain in the video. So that's going to be coming real soon. I don't know if it'll be ready for December, but hopefully we'll be ready for sometime in January, man. So it's difficult for me to get into bankroll management with you now because the way I do it is quite complicated, but I'm sure that I'll be getting a video out in the members area very soon, and that will be coming, like I say, in January, man. Calmeep1000 has said, as you are betting so much, you should show your bet slips. I'm sure people would sign up for more memberships if they see a big gambler like you. With stuff like this, bro, I always say, I've got nothing to prove. I've been doing this a very long time. But in case you were wondering why I don't post bet slips, it's because if you go to my channel, there is a video here that is entitled, Do You Want to Be a Professional Gambler? If you watch this video, it shows me making a very large deposit from a very popular European betting website where we've got $5,000 in this account. So, at the end of the day, I've barely got enough time to shower and eat, bro. I don't need to prove anything to anyone. I don't need to post betting slips. At the end of the day, I've put a video out showing me making money. If you are one of my elite members, I mean, you've seen my elite members pop up in the goddamn live chat all the time. Even Lidosis, who's a bot that I've created, pops up and tells you how much money they make. So I've got nothing to prove, bro. The website's been around for 6 years. I've been doing this a long time. Betting slips just takes time and hassle, and it's also stupid to post betting slips because it might help the bookies actually identify which account you are using, which is like a big red flag to come and ask them to shut you down. So the reason why I put that video out where I showed me making that money is because the account had already been closed down. I'm not going to go out there and show slips of fucking bets on a websites that are easily able to identify. Like if I go and post a fucking bet slip from Bet365, well, there's only one fucking website that uses that shade of green, so it's not going to be difficult to identify that account, is it, if you think about it? I mean, there aren't that many people that bet large amounts on MMA. Most people just bet 10, 20, 30, 40, $50. So if I go out there and post a betting slip of me betting £2,000 on fucking Nate Diaz this weekend, and it's got a fucking green background and everything, they're easily going to be able to identify that account. I'm just going to get shut down. So I ain't posting fucking betting slips. I got nothing to prove. At the end of the day, if you think this is all a scam, if you think I'm all a fraud, go watch someone else. Go watch someone else. The betting slips thing, it does irritate me quite a bit because it's almost like after 6 years in this game, what more have I got to prove? It's fucking infuriating. My bot, Lidosis, is there you go, my bot wasn't working tonight. It's popped up for the first time. Lidosis has said, thanks, brother, for teaching me everything about this betting game, from value to betting psychology. I've learned more from you than I ever have in school. Nice one, Lidosis. And, yes, the bot keeps saying nice things to me. It's actually, guys, Lidosis is not just a bot. He's actually a machine learning AI algorithm bot that actually scrapes the internet finding compliments from people, and then it constructs its own comments to say nice things about me. So Lidosis isn't actually real. He didn't go from betting £20 a fight to £400 a fight when he became one of my elite members last year. He's fake, and I'm a fraud. And the reason why I don't post betting slips is because I've never made money betting on MMA in my life. And you should definitely go and watch the other dudes on YouTube, the WikiCap fights, because they know way more about MMA than I do. So, but it is good to see my programming skills work so well, because Lidosis is one hell of a bot. You would never know he was a bot. You would never know he was fake. But shout out to you, Lidosis. Nice one, dude. He just said he's going to go make a new account and profile. Yeah, we do need a Lee bot emote. Definitely. Definitely, man. That is coming. Lee, you're going to have to send us a picture. Oh, no, wait, you can't. You're not real. Fuck. I was about to say, if Lee could send us a picture of himself, we could turn him into a bot, but we can't because he's not real. So there is no picture to send. So that is, I think that is going to be it, boys, for this one. We're all out of questions. Thank you all for watching. No, this turned out to be a lot longer than I thought it would be. A couple of rants. I didn't think there'd be any rants in this video. I thought, oh, you know what? I've only got to watch a 15-minute fight with Rozenstruik. I'll just bang that on. I'll be on and off in half an hour. There won't be any rants. Do you know what I mean? There've been a few rants. I apologise, boys. There's always rants with me, but it's all good. I'll go take some CBD oil now. We'll all be chilling, and I'm going to try and squeeze in researching one more fight before bed. And remember, boys, if you want me to do a breakdown between Darren Till and Kelvin Gastelum tomorrow, hit the like button on this video, and if this video gets 300 likes, as soon as it gets 300 likes, within 12 hours, I will put out that Gastelum Till breakdown video. But nice one for watching, everyone. Take care, and I'll be back very, 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 very soon with another live stream on Twitch or another video on YouTube. So I'll see you all soon.